Welcome back, True Seeker. This video is about why the Texas Rangers have won the 119th World Series on the 119th day of George W. Bush's age. Of course, he used to run the Rangers, the Texas Rangers Baseball Club, before he was president. And of course, he was in office as president when 9/11 happened, a date written 11/9 in the majority of the world, and that was the year the Diamondbacks went to their only other World Series. But we're going to go through all of this by the numbers. We're going to go back to March 30th of this year, opening day, the day the Rangers beat the Phillies 11-7, 267 days after Bush's birthday. Again, that's the Philadelphia area code. This World Series began on Philadelphia's birthday. Again, Bush threw out the first pitch at game one, and then the 119th World Series ends on his 119th day of his age, November 1st, the first day of the 11th month. The Rangers get their first World Series win and win 11 straight on the road in the postseason. Keep in mind 11 in math. 11 is the fifth prime number. The Rangers win the World Series in Game 5, 5-0. And look at the image ESPN puts out. Again, you can only see one player's jersey number, and it's Seager, number 5. And what did Seager do in Game 1? In Game 1, Seager tied the game at 5-5 with a 2-run home run in the ninth inning. Bottom of the ninth, Texas at home, tied it up at 5-5. Texas went to the 11th inning and won the game 6-5 on the day leaving 65 days left in the year. In a battle of the 6-seed Diamondbacks and the 5-seed Texas Rangers. D-backs 6th seed in the NL, who knocked out Philly in the NLCS, and the Rangers, the 5 seed in the American League. Again, if you guys are here, this just adds to our list of success using gematria and hitting futures in baseball. We put in a future after Game 1, March 30th, 2030, for Rangers and Phillies. And obviously the Phillies didn't make it, but we thought the ritual they had synced up with Bush, when I've been educating out for years how these games are rigged and how they sync them up with past presidents, current presidents. Again, historical riddles if you have enough information. Just like how Bush has always been connected to the Rangers, it's why they win their first World Series on this day, in this way. Other things that are really important about this. The American League won their 68th World Series all time. 68th World Series all time. They were led by Bruce Bochy, who's 68 years old. Of course, George W. Bush graduated from Yale Skull and Bones in 68. But they win it in Phoenix, Arizona. You know, they win it on the visiting field, so kind of hurting the fans there in Arizona who didn't really want to see this happen tonight. They're cheering for their team, the Diamondbacks. But Phoenix, Arizona in gematria equals 68. Phoenix, Arizona, 68. 68th World Series win for the AL. Comes in a city or a location with the 68 gematria. And then the pattern I've always taught about with the World Series is 57. We call the World Series number 57. The other number we've talked about in World Series rituals is 69. If you're new here, gematria, very simple practice coding numbers into words. World Series with the alphabetic orders 147. The scoring for the teams was 14-7 after Game 2, the split in Texas. World Series equals 57 when you take the alphabetic order with numerology applied. So you can see like W's worth 5. That's because W's the 23rd letter. 23 is 2 plus 3 is 5. So the numerology of 23 is 5. O, the 15th letter. 1 plus 5 is 6. You're just making each letter a single digit number. But World Series 57. In tonight's game, Bruce Bochy, the manager of the Rangers, became 57-57 in the postseason. With the reverse alphabetic order, World Series is 150, and with the reverse alphabetic order and numerology, World Series is 69. Tonight was the Rangers' 69th postseason game as a franchise, and Texas also has that gematria 69. So the Texas Rangers in their 69th postseason game win their first ever World Series as their manager becomes 57 and 57 wins and losses. Bochy has more postseason history than the Rangers do. And, of course, he was a manager of the Giants when they beat the Rangers 11 years ago for another 11. And we've seen these same patterns before. You see how Nationals equals 57? When they beat the Astros in the World Series 4 years ago with Max Scherzer, they gave the Astros their 57th postseason loss all time. And when Atlanta beat the Astros in the World Series the other year, Atlanta equals 69 like World Series. They gave the Astros their 69th all-time postseason loss. And again, just so on and so forth. These numbers come up year after year after year. And here, the write-up that I gave for people this morning on Patreon for why it looked like the Rangers would close it out today. Let me just read through this just so you can see the depth of the rigging and how this rigged World Series literally factors in with the same Bush family that the NBA Finals was synced with. Remember, those concluded in a 4-1 series on George H.W. Bush's birthday, who was number 41, who gave a speech about the New World Order, and then you had international star Nikola Jokic winning, who was the 41st pick of the draft, and how that was synced with the French Open and the other Joker. And they put out that image of Nikola when he was 5 years old wearing a Denver Nuggets sweatshirt over in Serbia. Anyway, what I wrote this morning, the way I wrote it, in light of 57 being the World Series number, Bochy has a chance to become 57-57 all-time in the postseason while dropping the D-backs to 5-7 in World Series games all-time. They would then win their first World Series on one date numerology. Today's date numerology is 1 for the first ever championship, right? And the Diamondbacks fell to 1-1 in the World Series in terms of series outcomes. They've won one series after 9/11. Now they've lost in the 119th World Series as Israel's having their 9/11, where Star David's 119. Texas, the Lone Star State. Texas Rangers, military, snakes, serpents, Satan, the synagogue of Satan, where the war's at. But it goes on. Texas can win their first World Series on one date numerology in their franchise's 69th postseason game, where Texas and World Series are 69. Keep in mind, Bush's father, number 41, gave the speech on the New World Order on September 11th, 1990, 11 years to the day. Their symbol is the phoenix, and it rises from the ashes. Tonight's game was in Phoenix. On top of that, the D-backs would be eliminated on George W. Bush's 119th day of his age. He threw out the first pitch for opening game. And all year in our community, we've been talking about what happened in Game 1 between Texas and Philly 267 days after Bush's birthday, and the World Series starting on Philadelphia's birthday. It would have been a lot better for us if Texas and Philadelphia both made it to the World Series. Ooh, we would have really been in the gold mine, but it was another big win. Texas had long odds at the start of the year. But after I mentioned the part about how he threw out the pitch for the opening game, I said yesterday Terry Lavulo, that's the manager of the Diamondbacks, fell to 11-9 in the postseason in the 57th head-to-head game between the Rangers and Diamondbacks. And that means tonight was the 58th game. Oh my God, you guys. Tonight was the 58th game, and it's just now dawning on me. George W. Bush, of course, is 58, and the surname Bush is 50 when you run it forwards and 58 in reverse. Tonight's score was 5-0, right? So the 58th meeting of teams just happens to come on the 119th day of his age in the 119th World Series as they close it out. Ooh, man. I should have had that in the notes. But I said the date before that, Frank Howard died. Remember, Frank Howard died, who just has all the teams that just happen to be connected to Max Scherzer, who got his pitch that day, and Max Scherzer's first MLB season was with the Diamondbacks. But you see how Frank Howard's 119, like the World Series? Frank Howard's 56 when you use numerology. That matters because the day that he died was the day of the 56th game between the Rangers and Diamondbacks all time. The day of the 56th game, Frank Howard dies. And that was the day of Game 3. And, of course, 3 has the powerful relationship with 56, like Odell Beckham, number 3, born on the day leaving 56 days left in the year, scored the first touchdown in Super Bowl 56, which was a 3-point game, which were all things that we had before the game was played because we understand the very repetitive patterns. With regards to Frank Howard, he won the World Series in 63, and he died on 63 date numerology, and this season is the Rangers' 63rd season, which has always been a big Major League Baseball number. Major League Baseball's 162 like the games in a season. If you use numerology, it's 63. Major League alone, when you run it in reverse, is 63. June 3rd, always big baseball rituals on June 3rd, the 154th day of the year. Double day is 154, the man who's credited with American baseball. Grand Slam also equals 154. June 3rd doesn't pass without at least a Grand Slam, at least one in the league. The other year there were 7 Grand Slams on the 154th day of the year. All part of the script. Just get out those corked bats, those loaded balls. I wrote, keep in mind if the Rangers win 4-1, Bush was in skull and bones like his father, who was number 41, and we know the Nuggets won the NBA Finals 4-1 on 41's birthday earlier this year, June 12, 2023, prior to W throwing out the first pitch. And then again, with regards to the whole 119-911 parallel, September 11th happened on 41 date numerology. Skull and bones equals 41 in Gematria, so does Saudi Arabia, Al-Qaeda. If you run it in reverse, see how the Rangers won 4-1 tonight and stayed on 76 losses for the year. And Nathan Eovaldi, who got the win tonight, he stayed on 76 career losses as well. And George W. Bush's birthday is July 6, 7-6. So think about that. His birthday is 7-6. And again, his father was number 41. And his father's birthday is June 12th, the day leaving 202 days left in the year, which is the day the Nuggets won the finals. And remember, the Nuggets and Spurs came to the NBA in 76, and it was the 76th anniversary season that the Nuggets won at 4-1. So now we have a different 41-76 ritual in tribute to Skull and Bones and the Bushes again, but now it's Major League Baseball. Same numbers, talking about the exact same things. I pointed out the significance of Bush being 77 years old at the time of this ritual. Of course, on September 11th, Flight 77 hit the 77-foot-tall Pentagon on the 77th meridian 77 minutes after taking off, at least so we were told. Things like United States and Secret Society equal 77, as do September 11th and World Trade Center. And then I went on. Also, the 9/11 master plan went into motion in 68. Again, World Trade Center construction began in 68. 911 made the National Emergency Dialing Code. George W. Bush graduated from Yale Skull and Bones. And now here, this tribute to Bush, the 68th win for the American League by 68-year-old Bruce Bochy, who's from France, where the Jesuits are from, who are running the whole damn show. But again, Phoenix, Arizona has that gematria of 68. And you see how Phoenix, Arizona is 175? Eovaldi with Texas became 17-5. His record now with Texas, the winning pitcher tonight for Texas, 17-5. And I believe also 5-0 in the postseason with Texas. He became 5-0 tonight in tribute to Bush as his team wins 5-0. You know, it's America's pastime. It's baseball. It's the land of 50 states and a bunch of territories. And then I pointed out, you know, today is 1/11 or 11/1, 11/1 like 111. Again, Rangers get the first World Series win their 11th straight on the road. New York equals 111. Again, just 9/11 happened on the day, leaving 111 days left in the year, September 11th. More recently, the 111th World Series, the New York Mets lost on this day, and after Matt Harvey got pulled with 111 pitches, and Eric Hosmer stepped up to the plate to knock in the tying run before the Royals beat the Mets, Remember, the Royals, the Queen was alive back then, born on the 111th day of the year. The Royals beat the Mets. But that was a massive 111 ritual involving the Mets in the World Series. And Scherzer just came over from the Mets. And Frank Howard, who died, also managed the Mets. And again, you look at the teams that Scherzer and Howard played for, they played for nearly all the same teams. Scherzer, the day of his first start, Howard dies. I mean, it's just like, come on. The D-backs also fell to 10-7 in the postseason, losing. And Rangers has that Gematria 107. D-backs fall to 10-7, losing the World Series to the Rangers that synced up with what's going on in Israel. And remember, Israel. The war broke out on October 7th, 107. Military equals 107. Earthquakes 107. Afghanistan got rocked by 3 big earthquakes on that day. It's the day leaving 85 days left near October 7th. Templars 85. Again, Phoenix, Arizona is also 85. The desert of Phoenix, the desert of the Middle East. So yeah, just to go back to the opening day game. If you guys watched my video yesterday morning on Frank Howard's death, I talked about 11-7 and how the Rangers beat the Phillies at the start of the year 11-7. The score of yesterday's game ended up being 11-7 after I did that video. And remember, Arizona Diamondbacks is 117. In that same cipher, Major League Baseball is 117. R.I.P. Roy Halladay, dead off the coast of Holiday, Florida, on November 7th, 117. That's also the day leaving 54 days left in the year, which is a big baseball number. Baseball's 162 and you run it in reverse like the number of games in a modern season. But yeah, again, just to go through the list over the years. 111th World Series was the first time I put a future out for baseball. And in spring training, we thought the Mets were the team to represent the NL with 40-1 odds. And they made it. You know, the New York Mets in the 111th World Series with Matt Harvey. It was all synced up with Matt Harvey's birthday. Again, 112th World Series. We guaranteed in spring training the Cubs would win it, breaking the 108-year drought, 108 double stitches on a baseball, Major League 108. Very important number that you can go into for days, but the tallest building in Chicago, 108 stories. There's a reason for all of it. 113th World Series. We didn't get it in spring training. We had the Astros as a front runner in the AL. There were a couple teams we were considering that year. But that season, end of August, at the time of Harvey, we said, okay, Astros are winning this World Series, and then LA was on fire. And we said it's Astros over Dodgers. Water puts out fire. You see how flood equals 52, like earth, like hurricane? Houston got flooded from Harvey on August 27th, 2017. The 239th day of the year, the 52nd prime. And then after the flooding of Harvey, and by the way, August 27th, 17 had 52 date numerology, and it was the anniversary of the death of Stevie Ray Vaughan, who had the album Texas Flood. But after the flooding of Harvey in Houston, Matt Harvey was the first visiting pitcher to pitch there, and he pitched exactly 52 days before the start of the World Series. And that's when we said, this is a done deal. This is happening. And I even have this article written by Vice News making fun of me from back then. This article was written a year after USA Today's article also making fun of my work, even though I was right both times. But again, he has me quoted here. I'm Zachary K. Hubbard, and he's making fun of how I pointed out why the World Series is going to be just that. Astros over Dodgers through Harvey and the flood and the fire and how it was all synced up. And let's not forget that Sports Illustrated put out that magazine cover years earlier with George Springer on the cover back when he was with the Astros, saying that they were going to win that 113th World Series in that year. And I want to say that cover came out like 3 or 4 years before it happened. But again, he makes fun of all the 52 stuff I lay down. And I say it the same way today as I said it back then because it's all facts. But the 113th World Series, we couldn't get in spring training, but we had both teams right before the postseason even began. based on the events that had played out in the world. Next year, 114th World Series in July. We said it will be Boston over LA in the World Series and Boston over LA in the Super Bowl. And check this out. We mapped it all out. It was on a Wednesday like this on a TFR episode. We said Boston will beat LA 4-1 in the World Series. Chris Sale, number 41, will be a big part of that. And that'll be 99 days before the Super Bowl to conclude the 99th NFL season, where Tom Brady will win at age 41, where Super Bowl equals 41, and so does LA. And also in Gematria, that was the year of Super Bowl 53. Boston Red Sox is 53. Patriots is 53. Los Angeles is 53. So Patriots win Super Bowl 53 and the World Series that year. It was the 114th World Series. So we saw that in July, how that all fit together. And again, helped a gentleman win $350,000 parlaying those things together. 115th World Series. All year that year, that was the year after George Herbert Walker Bush died on November 30th, 2018. And of course, I'd said that in September before he died that he was not going to live past November 30th. Ended up dying on the 5-year anniversary of Paul Walker, who died in the red Porsche, like how he gets the red Porsche in the movie The Skulls about Skull and Bones. But the 115th World Series, it was September 27th. The day that we figured out the World Series. And it was a date with 48 numerology, and the Nationals got their 48th home win of the year. And then the next game was on 49-date numerology, and they got their 49th win of the year. And the day after that, they got their 50th win of the year on 50-date numerology to sneak into the playoffs. We put a future in for Washington and Astros in the World Series before Washington had even clinched their playoff spot, because they were on the cusp there at the end. But we saw that they were going to win all 3 of those games in a major Skull and Bones ritual. If you want to go back and look at what happened. So you see how Cleveland's 48? Again, the Nationals got their 48th home win of the year on 48-date numerology over the Cleveland Indians. And it was 223 days after Geronimo's birthday, the 48th prime. And the reason that matters is because there's a rumor that Prescott Bush, the father of George Herbert Walker Bush, stole Geronimo's skull for the Skull and Bones Secret Society at Yale. Well, that game on September 27th, it was Dave Martinez, the manager of the Nationals' 322nd game as a manager for the ball club. And he was already on 149 losses, and we said, look at that. He can stay on 149 losses in his 322nd game. And this date numerology lines up for Washington to win the next 3 and sneak into the playoffs. And we've already been documenting the Skull and Bones rituals that they've been doing all year with the Astros. In the Astros and Rangers games that year, they kept paying tribute to Skull and Bones. And keep in mind, the last time anybody really saw George H.W. Bush out in public was after the 113th World Series that the Astros won over the Dodgers. But once we saw that major Skull and Bones ritual in the Cleveland and Nationals game, we said, this must be the other half of it, because they've been doing it all year with the Astros, who we liked all year from spring training on. But it took until that moment, nearly at the very end of the season, to see that that was the World Series. But it had such huge odds at that point. Somebody in this community turned a $5 or a $10 bill into several thousand in a nice parlay with that and a few other things, because there were just such big odds on that alone for the Nationals to beat the Astros. But again, when the Nationals won, Nationals 57, World Series 57, the Astros picked up their 57th all-time postseason loss, just like how tonight the D-backs fell to 5-7 in games in the World Series, and Bochy became 57-57. Same patterns over and over. So the 116th World Series, we nailed that one. It was a no-brainer. Mookie Betts came over in the Jackie Robinson ritual to the Dodgers, and we said, with the history of 116 and African American, this is the Dodgers World Series. It's the Jackie Robinson tribute, and exactly what happened. 117th World Series, we thought the Braves were the team after Hank Aaron's death. They changed the ballpark to Truist Park the year that the Braves won the 117th World Series. Last year, 118th World Series. I did overlook in the AL that the Astros owner was born on January 18th, but we knew in the NL it was either going to be the Phillies or the Dodgers. One of those two teams. Phillies or Dodgers for the 118th World Series because both of those cities love 118. Los Angeles, California, for example, is 118. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Let me spell it right. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania is 118. And even just Philadelphia, PA is 118. And I think the Philadelphia Phillies, if I'm not mistaken, is also 118. It is. So we were glad the Phillies made it, not the Dodgers. We covered both spaces. But the Phillies were a way better payout. And they didn't win the World Series, but they won the NL pennant and made it there. And, I mean, for all the years that we've been here doing baseball, we've been able to not only show how the game's rigged, but just show how it just synced up with world events and other things going on in history. And, I mean, we're really talking about the same stuff year after year and coming back to the same families and the Bushes again. And it's just... I'm mind-blown. I know that algorithms absolutely murdered the work. Like, if it was 2016, this video would get 1 million views, but it's now 2023, and I'll be lucky if this video gets even anywhere near 10,000 views. So it's disappointing in that regard. I mean, it's like, where's humanity at? How many times do we got to do this? But... shout out to Chris. Chris says, congrats to the winners. I got the Texas Rangers at 7.25 odds to win the World Series and put 100 on them and made 725. Excellent work, Chris. Well done. And another flow said, Russia versus the Chinese military. Who will lose first? Well, the people of the world will lose. The leaders at the top that are all in the same club, you know, they're not going to have any problems. So, all right. Did anyone else have any other observations for tonight's game? Because it is late. If not, we can wrap it up. We can keep this one short and sweet. In fact, it's the video is 27 minutes long. That seems fitting for the MLB. Oh, you see how the timestamp right there is a minute 03, you guys? 1:03. That's how many games the Rangers won this year, 103, which is the 27th prime, and MLB, of course, equals 27, and each team gets 27 outs in a game, and the Yankees lead all of Major League Baseball with 27 championships, MLB 27, NBA 17, the Lakers and Celtics tied at 17. So, all right, we'll keep this one short and sweet, though. More people will watch it here at the 27-minute mark. Thank you to the Super Chatters. Congrats to the winners. Feel free to leave a tip. 50 to 1 at the beginning of the year. And until next time.